Good evening. You are listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Extreme Studios in the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. It's almost 90 degrees here, RDV. I know you're coming in from the great Midwest here on the set. Tonight we're going to be talking about a movie that's one of my best of the 90s, particularly of 1997. That's Gattaca with Ethan Hawke, Thurman, of course, Jude in it. Look, everybody looking very, very young. And damn it, this is one of those few movies, RDV, that I put up there with Papillon and other movies that have to do with the human spirit. And I don't mean war movies. I don't mean happy endings, because that's something I think we're going to be debating here. What this movie is a movie about in the future where there's eugenics, which is
dystopian future.
Yeah, it's creating basically a situation like kind of like they do in China, where you have selective breeding to have people be modified engineering so you have like a master race sort of thing. It's not a Nazi thing, a fascist thing. It's not presented to be that way because the movie's not about that, right?
No, but I mean, it is very anti-freedom of speech and all that stuff. This is kind of like the one world order thing, what they do want to do, because this is social engineering.
Without a doubt, social engineering. And you brought up something really important here, and I'll mention some of that because I don't know if that's something we want to get into. But this is a movie that definitely has, in my opinion, political ideas, but it's more about the human spirit. This is a very libertarian-esque type of movie. And Ethan Hawke, as young looking as he is, a punk looking here, he's got that punchable face. Every time I want to reach out and swing on him, damn it, he goes to pull something out of his ass. I really enjoy like this movie because this is a fantastic film. I think it's very underrated and it's not talked about a lot. I'm shocked. All the times we've talked about doing it, we're now finally getting into it. It's a great film. Now, have you seen this before, or was this your first watch?
Yeah, I've watched it before. I saw it in the theater. It came out in 97.
Gotcha.
Now, this movie is very much the story of, I'd compare it to Rocky in a sense. And you're asking, why is it reading me Rocky? This is the underdog who's he's basically told, you can't do this. And he proves them wrong. That the science isn't always correct.
Yes.
Don't trust the science. Very much. This movie basically is a guy full on. He's a natural birth. Wherever now it's basically like they'd plan out, your birth beforehand, like choose a gender. Do you want to immune diseases or live longer? He's estimated because his parents do a natural birth and stuff, which is he talks about. He self narrates that doesn't happen anymore.
Correct.
So and he's given like a lifespan of like 32 at the age 32. Probably he'll probably die.
Yep.
And he proves it wrong. Everybody wrong. And including his brother, he's a younger brother, who's perfect in every way. He was socially engineered. His parents did that, and his brother is the one that has the flaw, where he actually succeeds in doing something his dream, with the help of Monk. Who's basically working as a guy.
Before he was Monk.
Yeah, he's like
DNA broker.
I'll get you a guy, the DNA broker.
There's always a black market, especially when you constrain a system.
I love this, and a very young Jude Law plays a guy who's basically was one of those social engineer, but overseas he broke his back. There's never been no word in the States, so they kind of use each other in this movie. Jude Law allows Ethan Hawke to use his life, his blood, his urine, DNA and all that stuff in exchange, letting him, hey, my legacy go on and stuff, my name and stuff, and then the whole movie's focused on Ethan Hawke more, and then his interaction with Thurman. But only problems arise is when his first day on there, because he originally at the space program called Gattaca, he was designated as a cleaner, maintenance guy before he met Jude Law and all that.
If you're an invalid, you got the shit jobs.
Yeah, so
and there's no middle class here at all either.
And because he had been someone had been murdered in there, and their murder investigation, he had touched the thing, his fingerprint on this little scanner. That's how they prove who you are. It pricks your finger and takes a blood sample.
Mm-hmm.
He's an invalid pops up, so he becomes a murder suspect. And as you go out through the movie, it's like I said, and just spoilers, you find out that the guy looking into it, the invalid, actually turns out to be his older brother.
Yeah.
And because everyone's aged up, because Vincent had basically left the family. He got tired of being scolded and told what he can't do, being looked down by, everything. His mom even trying to tell him. So he's like, he leaves the family. So it's been all these years. So it's about a brother trying to find trying to find Vincent. Vincent trying to get into space, achieve his goal with the use of Jude Law, and just falling in love with Uma Thurman, who happens to work there. There's a murder case. It's really cool. A very, like I said, very dystopian future, which is very, and I love how they make it look so drab, so dark, because this is what it would be, where everything's predetermined. And the other movie, I said, we talk about these movies like this. There's another movie that pops up in my mind right away when I watch stuff like this. Minority Report. Remember? Everything's predicted what you're gonna do, and like these are the movies you should use as a warning sign. If you see this shit happen in real life, like, okay, maybe let's not go down this path. Kind of like Skynet. Let's not do advanced robots, Elon.
Right.
But good movie though. It's my second time watching it. Rob, do you have any favorite parts about this at all, or is this like a not obviously not first watch for you, but it's probably the first in 20 years probably for you?
I haven't watched it in a while. Here's a couple of things I want to backtrack and just start off. I think the movie, generally speaking, this you and I have talked about movies and themes. We've never made it a solid discussion as far as like to me, this is science fiction. Why? Because it deals with a concept, an idea, and it's how it's implemented in the natural world and the effects it has on the human race that's important to me. Other stuff is just space opera action films, or they might have a political or philosophical thing, but this is what I call real science fiction, which there's very little of, in my opinion.
Drama, thriller,
Yeah, and it's hard to do that without some people going, it's boring, it's stupid, or what's going on, I don't get it. And I just think that early on, the fact that they give you the setup, you got the two brothers, the one's perfect and the one's not. Well, we all know and can, if we've had a sibling, especially a brother, like I have a twin brother, where you can feel that sort of stuff. Maybe you're the older one, maybe you're the younger one, maybe you always need to protect or compete. There's just certain things that happen to you. And what I liked about all this has to do with they're swimming. So the perfect one, to his point, loses because he just only knows how to do what he does. And it's like, well, you shouldn't beat me because you're an invalid. And it's not like he hates him. It's just that I don't get it. And it's kind of chilling, but this is the first sense you get of what kind of willpower he's got. He's like, well, yeah, I didn't conserve my energy. I was just, I wasn't going to have any for the way back. And it's like, hey, this fucker's driven, and I respect the hell out of that, how hard he's going to have to work to do it. And it brings up human performance, which is one thing I want to mention, because as somebody that works in the private sector, having to put a lot of groups together internationally to get some custom things made, I don't want to say too much and all that. I deal with this stuff a lot. And so you'll have somebody that's good at this, but bad at that. But maybe they're good on their own. Maybe they're good with the group and all these personalities and stuff. And you're 100% right. This should be a warning, because the current incarnation of this is artificial intelligence, which is a tool. Yes. It's not smart. It's completely stupid.
Facial recognition, fingerprints, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the detective-y kind of thing to it, because in Professor Pixel and I's review of season 1 of their Adventures of Sherlock Holmes from Granada 1984, we're a few episodes in now. One thing that's interesting there is not so much the impact the British Empire had on the world at that time in the late 1800s. It's really about Sherlock Holmes using these brand new techniques to identify people, like whether it's fingerprints or blood types or certain things. And so it's interesting, the science. And here, what have you got? You've got a situation where, to your point, you said it has to be clean and drab, because all it takes is like an eyelash or a fingernail clipping or a chunk of skin or a piece of hair or spit. So what happens when you spit? Well, you can't kiss somebody, or you run the danger of getting caught because they can take a sample, right?
You punch somebody, they swab your teeth,
Yes, there's always DNA always leaves a trail, right? And so I love how they set this up, because you're like, okay, I get what the idea is here. He's going to work really hard. He's going to prove everybody through the strength of his will he can achieve his dreams. And what better dream is there? And this is another reason why it personally resonates with me, being the original Florida Boys. I always wanted to be an astronaut. So he wants to go to space. That's the hookup, right?
This movie, you brought up the black market, though. I kept thinking about this. If this is supposed to be, there is not much crime. They do have cops and stuff, because it's impossible to not hide DNA, I guess, when you do all this stuff.
Right.
But what if you wear a suit? What if you punch somebody? You can easily get away wearing gloves, stuff, things we used to do in the 90s and stuff. And like you see all the movies, like every guy would wear a glove and he, use a string, and he'd do that way and not leave any evidence behind. Like, obviously, you could literally get away with murder in this movie if all they do is focus on DNA and you just cover everything up. As long as you don't cough or cut yourself, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, but because it seems kind of like it's so pristine, there's a society. There's probably no Taco Bells. It's almost kind of like it's like Demolition Man. It doesn't seem like it's a really war torn really like crime and stuff. There's black market, but it's a very drab, boring world. He works in a cubicle. There's thousands of cubicles.
Yep.
I said it's.
So Henry Ford is really given a lot of credit for basically coming up with the idea of industrial revolution in terms of having line production, and then of course the efficiency of it. We've shifted it over to Japan after World War II. Now there's various incarnations over here in the States. And so when you have your bean counters in a business decide what's effective not based off the bottom dollar, you make assumptions. You make assumptions that everybody has a certain productivity level and this and that. And everybody takes the human element out of it. The 80-20 rule, there's the Pareto principle, all these things. And what I like about this movie is it's saying, okay, if this is how this future system is going to be, here's how it is. Whether you like it or not, it's consistent with the rules they've established, right? So the fact that, of course, that whole, it's not even really Romeo and Juliet because it's from different families, but the fact is what does he do? He's got the hots for Uma Thurman, who, I have to say this, genetically speaking, in the real world, beauty is often referred to as symmetry, equal sides of the face, because as you get older, that gets on there. Woman's body has certain proportions that ethnically, signal their ability to reproduce. Same thing with males. And so the whole drive of getting your DNA future really is a universal animal one. And I know religious people have an issue with that. I will simply say that one of the things that they did not dive into too much in here, but except for the saliva and kissing, is that, you're attracted to somebody based off of sexual chemistry, and that's called a pair bond that eventually may turn into what we would call romantic adult love. And the whole purpose of that existing is to raise your offspring, because humans are one of the few species that has a very weak baby for a very long period of time due to our advanced brain. And so it's interesting here because, you can see that they've got a chemistry for each other, but she's so drawn by those lines and where she's her culture and he isn't his, but he has to mask it. But you cannot fight that. There's always that excuse of, well, you're just going to feel like the heart wants what the heart wants. And that's a little simplified here. But they didn't have to do a love interest, but in a way, I think they did, because it's so important with what happens, right?
It shows you what happens when someone's not perfect and you fall in love with them and you find out they're not imperfect. Well, do you really love that person, or was it all attraction because of
you're in love with the idea of somebody being perfect?
Yes, and it's a cliche. They do this all the time, as far as someone's posing, somebody else falls in love. They're mad because what was it, a whole entire life because he's undercover, and he said no. It's just like the drama stuff. It's cliche, but I like it though. It adds a little bit more pizzazz to what could be a kind of a dull movie. Now whether he gets back with Uma Thurman in the movie or doesn't, it doesn't really bother me. What bothers me is when he goes into space. There's no spacesuit. At the end, it goes in the rocket ship and it goes into space. I was just like, it's like getting on an airplane. It's like, really? That was that important just to get on the airplane, going to Boeing into space with no suit, nothing? It was weird. But
yeah, it's I mean, that I can kind of let go. I think you were joking offline about how hot Uma Thurman wasn't here. Of course, Kill Bill wouldn't come too far after that.
Yeah.
I have this thing called the sandwich scale. She looks like she needs to do a sandwich. Just meaning put on a little bit of weight. She's young, she's whatever, she's fresh. And I'm not knocking on her, but
no.
Some of them need to eat 2 sandwiches these days.
I cannot.
Back in the 80s, you didn't have this issue.
Problem is of me when it comes to Uma Thurman is it's not because she's not ugly or like that stuff. She's very attractive. It's just that I can't get in that stupid mummy. It was a thumb sucker, whatever it was called, when she had the big thumbs. Like whatever it was called, she has a huge. She's a hitchhiker and she has these huge freaking thumbs.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, it's in her IMDb somewhere, but it's a movie where she has like giant thumbs, and it was just like it was so weird. I was like, and it just disturbed. That movie was so bad. So whenever I see her, it's like I reminded of that movie. And but no, she's very good looking in this. She's also very good looking in I believe it was Batman and Robin. With George Clooney.
Right.
Yeah. But overall, though, it said the movie was pretty decent. It said these are movies we should take with a grain of salt because a lot of times art imitates life, and vice versa.
Well, you,
Yeah.
you know, like I say, we're talking a little bit of themes here rather than the scenes that set them up. And I think normally you and
Well,
I don't really do that, right?
well,
And I think
he-
the whole thing here that you find out at the end, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it, is that if you have everything planned 100% designed, what happens as a species is you die out. I mean, you can look at it where everybody's born across the world.
yeah,
I've mentioned before the hero's journey, the typical standard storytelling, that all cultures have similar types of stories and stuff because that's a human thing that goes across
yeah,
cultures. Just like in different cultures, even if you're raised a certain way, you have certain universal expressions in your face and your body language that's
so
ingrained in your DNA. And I think that here, if you're going to die out, you can't do it this way. And the one modern thing that I just want to get off my chest here, and it's pretty much the end of it because this movie really brought it home, is there's always a lot of talk about genetic programming and manipulation, and it always starts off with supposedly good intentions. Oh, we can do it to cure. It's always
yeah.
cure cancer, right? It's always to
Well,
cure AIDS. It's always to cure disease. But when you
like
have somebody like, you could argue if you remade this movie today, like an Elon Musk, and realize he's a gazillionaire. He wants to live forever. He wants to put chips in your body. He's going to disguise all this stuff. He goes from job to job, taking his money out there. He's what you call a transhumanist. And there's something in a concept called the singularity, where the idea of this human spirit, somehow you can take it and put it into a technological configuration, whether it's uploading like Skylink or whatever. You know, we mentioned that before,
yeah.
Terminator. And it's that idea is never going to go away. How do you live forever?
Well, here's the thing: you don't need to remake this movie because it has happened already before. You know, as far as discrimination goes, you know, there's a scene in here where he's a younger kid. He goes into the school and he falls, and they're like, "Oh, he's imperfect. We need to get him out of here. You know, we can't cover his insurance if he falls, hurts himself." There's no, yeah. It's like where it's basically it's like big insurance seeing people as being liabilities. They don't want to pay out. You know. Lots of voting lawsuits and all this stuff because he's imperfect. Where the perfect ones, there probably isn't much insurance because no one buys it because everyone's perfect. So
well,
it's a weird.
I certainly don't want to sound like the guy defending insurance. It literally is
no.
about probability. However,
But I'm
politics
saying
and everything like this does get into it, right?
Yeah, this movie is heavily political. There's no way you cannot talk about it.
Right.
I'm not going to give examples today, but I'm just going to say it's not that far from the truth, but and so it's a scary part. This, especially when the fingerprints for punch clocks, you know, and then with the facial recognition, this movie was already doing with the fingerprints. Next thing is taking the blood, you know, microchips going into palms now, and that's if you want to like buy something at your factory or whatever it's at. They have those things now. You put your hand, and it has money on it. We've seen that in I believe it was Blade Runner 2 or one of the Blade Runners. But yeah, so honestly, this movie is very dark and depressing on purpose to show you what society would be like if you lived in a place where there's no freedom. You take away your freedoms, you know, you're assigned at birth, how you're gonna die, when you're gonna die, they tell you. And you know, yeah, it's one guy going against the system, you know, and yeah, it's always illuminating in the back of my mind. This movie, every time I see anything that's going on, as far as technologies, Facebook and now having, if you want to sign up, you have to take a video of your face so they can, and then you can turn your head like this so they can get your facial recognition software and all that stuff. And I'm just like, you don't need that, bro. And he already said, like, in a couple of years ago, they said in 2018, I probably a little more than a couple of years, but they said anything uploaded photos onto our platform, they're now ours. So I don't want you to have you're gonna open my face for you. Screw that, you know, because fingerprints, I don't like that because it said and because your fingerprints for your phone, you have fingerprints to punch in, and we all know that emails get hacked every single day. So do databases, so do credit card companies, all that stuff. So why would I trust anything like that with my my fingerprint, all that stuff? You know, it's like fingerprints used to be for high security clearances, like you see in the movies, for like the military, top secret stuff. Now it's everyday use. It's scary how like technology is advanced so much, and we're relying so much onto it, you know. And the social engineering is real. When this movie was made, it wasn't really like popular, but now as we've gone like a couple years in the future, like 10, 20 years, they are social engineering. It is a thing, you know, and that's scary, you know.
Well, you always are going to have certain systems where certain people are in charge of it and things happen. So, like China is probably one of the bloodiest cultures there has been. If you go back, look at wars and stuff like that. But the reason why you have, like Korea and North and South, and then of course Japan, and being very, what's the word I want to say? Everyone always talks about Japan being imperial, but they're very xenophobic. They don't really want to intermingle a lot necessarily. So their culture is going to continue in the future, but people now are talking about there's the birth rates, how they're not very high. There's a somewhat of a correlation between
Japan's,
that and economics, but they print a lot of money so they don't grow as a culture, right? But they're very fond of their culture. And when you have a lot of commingling going on, usually through transportation, especially during the Industrial Revolution, you had such situations come up like it. And in China, we think, oh, they're commies, they're all bad. Well, that's the government. The majority of the people of them, are just 1 or 2 generations removed from World War II. And the fact that, they've dealt with a lot of, hey, you can only have a certain child of a certain sex, and so many of them, the government's going to do this and do that. And I can't imagine what it must be like living in a country like that. So when I see something like Ethan Hawke in a role like this, I go, the American spirit, what's unique about it is it takes concepts from other cultures, but only of those which were successful and what the original inspiration was. And the libertarian thing is liberty, the ability to do what you want, when you want, how you want. And the concept of it is that as long as it doesn't do harm to others, who cares? If you want to do drugs, who cares? As long as you don't get in the car and hurt somebody, otherwise you suffer the consequences. You can talk morals and ethics till you're blue in the face, but at the end of the day, you're a fucking adult. Deal with what you're going to deal with. And I love how the guy says, you know what? I've got my personal agency. This is what I want. This is my dream. I'm going to do everything I can and go for it. No, there's no guarantee he's going to be successful. I mean, we'll talk about the ending here shortly, but if that message isn't really built into you early on about what it means to be alive and have a goal set for it and give your life purpose and meaning, you can argue for him his meaning is not really true, going into space. It's about doing something, so then he becomes possibly falling in love, and people think, getting married and having a family is the ultimate end. I'll leave that for you to decide, but it's such a simple way to tell a story with so many themes that you can talk endlessly about.
The ending is kind of cliche. I won't really go into it, but I'll just say this as far as when he has to take the pee sample, and like I said, the guy is like, "Oh, you're invalid." Well, but don't worry. Next time if you're right-handed, make sure you're not holding your stuff left-handed, because right-handers don't do that.
Are you left-handed, sir?
Yeah. As far as this, I don't know. I'm not right.
I am, and I've had teachers back me to try to correct it.
I'm right-handed. But I mean, as far as like I said, it goes. This movie is like, it's also another cliche too. It's like you could try so hard to get all accomplished, and there's always something that goes wrong, no matter how perfect you try to be. And I loved about this movie. I still have no idea who the guy at the end is supposed to be related to him at all, or maybe he's just someone who's rooting for him. I don't know.
It's his brother.
No. At the very end, the guy with the pee sample. That's not his brother.
Oh, okay. The P guy.
I thought maybe it was his dad at first, because he was told that his parents had died, thinking that they outlived him. Because he's supposed to live to 30 years old, and he's past. He's older than 30 now in the movie. But obviously, this movie is very fun. But also it is very dark too. They don't really get into like what happens in ballads, when they get caught and stuff. Like, that's the thing. I would have loved they would have delved into that, like the punishments.
Because honestly, who cares?
Yeah. Well, in a society like this, it's like they said, it's a 2-tier society. There's the poor, who are the servants, the slaves, as he mentions, and then there's those who just don't care because they've been raised to be like they're perfect. So they're cold-blooded. They have no emotion whatsoever. So when he said he meets Uma Thurman's character here, she's kind of like cold, calculated and stuff. She's like, if you don't believe me, I'm a perfect specimen for you. Here's my hair. And he's like, the hell? But like I said, after it's revealed that he's imperfect and she doesn't care, she's in love with him. And obviously this is a world
for women. Different works.
But this is a world though where love doesn't exist. If it does, it's
it can't be biology.
Yeah.
Now you could do meds, and they don't get to it a lot, but in the equilibrium with Christian Bale, the gung fu is when he gets off the meds, is when he gets back to his real self. That's kind of cute.
Yeah, but I mean, you think about this, it's like how many. Actually, another example of this movie, it all reminds me too, is in the comic books, and Superman. His family, or he's from Krypton. Everything was social engineered birthing, down to the DNA and stuff. They didn't do natural births. What his parents did was illegal. You're not supposed to do it. And that's kind of like his parents here, like they did something so that's kind of frowned upon because everyone wants their children to be perfect and all that stuff. And there's take away God, take away love, and it's just basically just drones, and that's depressing. And then it's the whole movie is like it's what we're warning about. It's like you got to have the human spirit. If someone doesn't have human spirit, they're dead inside. They're zombie. There's no point.
Yep.
The other thing we can talk about in this movie is that Jude Law's character. He's a guy who basically is giving away his samples of his blood, his DNA and stuff, his pee and all stuff, and helping him, Ethan Hawke, achieve his dream. And
he's living through him.
Yeah, pretty much living through him.
His life now is purpose.
And I said, as soon as he gets to as far as, and this is kind of part of the ending, not all of it.
Yeah, let's go ahead with it. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I couldn't remember before I watched this movie why there's an issue I had with it. I couldn't remember what it was, but I remember I liked this movie, but not as much as I
like A minus.
Yeah, it was like A minus because there's one thing, and that's kind of at the end when Ethan Hawke ends up going to space. Jude Law says like, "Oh, what's this?" Like, before he leaves, he's like, "Oh, I gave you 2 lifetime supplies." Like, you're like, "What the hell is he doing? 2 life supply? Where are you going, bro? Are you going to vacation?" He's like, "I'm going on vacation myself, a journey." And like, this is getting dark, and so when Ethan Hawke goes into space, and then he shows him it's going in space, we're rocking in space. We see Jude Law crawling into what looks like a container, something refrigerator first. Then you realize it's the incinerator. Jude Law, pretty much his character commits self-deletes. I'm not going to say the other word because it might be triggering.
True.
To algorithm. Thank you.
Yep.
But
the big S.
I was like, they show that the movie is so dark. They show the flames of the rockets, and then they show the flames, and they focus on the war medal or whatever medal he has, Olympic medal. And then they focus on that, and they see him incinerator burning. I was just like, "Whoa, what the heck?" But even before this, Jude Law's character, there's a scene where Jude Law has to be Jerome himself because Vincent's brother, the detective, is coming home with Uma Thurman to check on him because Vincent is a suspect for the murder. So at this point, we don't know that Vince is actually his brother. At this point, we don't know that this guy's a kind of like, why is he weirdly obsessed with Vincent at first?
Yep.
Smells
a rat or what?
Yeah. So he goes there and this is cool. We have remember the watches, the calculators on watches, but he's got he's calling him on his phone and a little watch, and a risk computer. I was like, so kind of cool. And he's like, dude, you got to be yourself. It's like, you only have a few minutes. So of course, Jerome, the real Jerome, Jude Law, is in the basement. He's in a wheelchair. He has to pull himself up the stairs. And remember, he's paralyzed from the waist down. He broke his back. Yeah, I love how he does.
It's dramatic, isn't it? Right?
It looks so believable.
You're like, oh my god, yeah.
And he's got those spiral staircases too. The wooden ones, So he's got climbs up, and then you see there, and he's finally at the thing. When the detective shows up, he's propped up in the chair. He's sweating and all stuff. And then Uma Thurman shows up, and she's like, "Oh, honey, what are you doing?" He's, "Oh, he told you he's supposed to be told. Remember, Elias was supposed to be sick." So he's like, and then Uma Thurman goes on, and then she goes to kiss him, but she hesitates at first, and then he kisses her on the lips, and he pulls her down. She's gonna go sit down somewhere else. He holds on her hand to keep her next to him.
Tingles.
Yeah, and obviously the detective can tell that they're lying and stuff. It was such a tense moment. And you
can get that out of good writing, out of a good setup where it's supposed to happen because it's the right thing to do as far as the human thing, but there's consequences, right?
Yes.
And it's not like people are lambasting you or telling you all this kind of stuff. It's a very visual type demonstration, which is what film should be. Yes,
and it keeps you on edge because the wheelchair is down there, and we know that the detective starts looking at the staircase, and so that's what Jude Law's looking. He's like, "Oh, don't go down there." And he goes down the steps only to be stopped, and we see Vincent on the other side of the pillar. He might have moved the wheelchair, and just before the detective went down there, he gets a call from his boss saying, "We caught the killer." Like, what? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was Gore Vidal the whole entire time.
Writer.
Ernest Borgnine is also here too. He's also the head janitor.
He's a taxi cab driver in Escape from New York, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Your older people will know that.
Yes, Xander Berkeley.
Yes.
From Nikita.
Sea level stuff. Yes.
Yes. Well, also he's from Walking Dead. He was.
Oh yeah. Later.
He was. Yep. Yeah. He was Hilltop leader and stuff. You know, the guy's been. He's been in some stuff.
He's solid.
We also got Elias Koteas. If you don't know who that is, I've got time. It's on my side. Time is on my side. He's the serial killer in Fallen. Yeah. He's also Casey Jones. It's in the TMT movie. So he's been around too. It's like he plays the father of Vincent and his brother, and then you don't really recognize it because their face is covered. In the delivery room when Vincent's being born and stuff, Maya Rudolph is one of the nurses.
Okay.
According to IMDb, I didn't catch it, but I was looking for it. I was like, but you don't really see her face because it's covered. But I was excited. It's a very, very obscure movie. I think a lot of people probably don't know what it is because I don't see it ever being re-released. You know, an anniversary, collections. It's not a big blockbuster hit.
Right.
But it's a movie. If you are looking for a Jude Law movie other than Gladiator.
Stop it.
He's in this, and he plays a really good. He's a really good person. Yeah, I like this. Ethan Hawke is another big actor that kind of gets overshadowed these days.
He, at this time, I will say in the '90s, it's clear to me, and maybe other people have a different thought of it. Obviously, there's the big budget movies that got really big in the '90s. I'm looking at Fugitive and those types of films.
The Firm, Tom Cruise, all stuff. Yeah.
But there would be people that would do some of the independent ones, and this is when Hollywood really kind of went like Gattaca, societally speaking, where there was no middle class of movies. They really went for the big tent poles or the little ones. And Ethan, I always respected the fact that he was somebody that kind of picked and choose what he wants. Not that he couldn't do it, but some of the romance movies he's been in, the Almost Midnight, the Almost in the Morning, where the hell they are, really super low budget ones, shot basically, in like a couple weeks, are very good. I think there's 3 of them in there, but we haven't really done romance movies like that. No. I always liked how he's been willing to branch out and do those kinds of films rather than just, it's a paycheck film. I mean, and to him to pick up on something like this is great because this guy is unknown who wrote it and directed it. But I would tell you, I just looked it up and I said, I don't know this guy's name. But you know what he was really known for the year later? The Truman Show.
Ah.
And so there's a lot of themes like to me the Truman Show that are similar to this, right?
Yeah, now you bring it up. I can see that stuff like that. Yes. The self-narration part is really the big noticeable thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, even then, everybody walks around perfect like this. The scenery, how just the way certain camera angle stuff. It probably, like I said, it does kind of look like the Truman Show. But there was another movie with Ethan Hawke. I mean, I haven't seen Training Day. We'll eventually have to do that.
I think Ethan Hawke was or is married to Uma Thurman. I thought they'd been together for a long
they're married.
time. I don't really know socially, but
his daughter is on Stranger Things.
Yeah, that's Maya Randolph or whatever her name is. But I do remember when we were talking about Haven season 1 years ago when we first started venturing into TV. We both kind of liked that show, and there's something about the magic of the way it's filmed up there in Halifax, Nova Scotia that just I like it. I don't know why. Yeah. It's just watchable to me. And I'd heard at that time that Ethan Hawke lived, I guess, in a small town or had a house out there and would summer out there or something. And he's one of those guys that pop in's a nice guy, talks to everybody, sort of thing. And I'm like, really, Nova Scotia? And then we reviewed Haven, and I was like, hey, more power to you. I can see where you'd want to get away from the hustle and bustle of it, not want to be living in LA, doing what you want to do with who and when. I think that's good shit.
Yeah.
Again, another example of liberty, right?
Yeah. The other big movie I remember that came out that I really liked his was Taking Lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that one. I don't want to say too much about it, but that's one, ladies and gentlemen, don't read about it. Just watch it.
Yep.
It's like, every time I want to punch you, or strangle you because you got that punchable looking face, you do something like this.
Yeah,
let's be honest, he was in Training Day, and I didn't hate him, but everybody was watching that.
He was in the remake of I'm looking at IMDb now, Assault on Precinct 13.
Yep.
He was in Lord of War. Popped up in there. Brooklyn's Finest. Daybreakers was another independent, but he did with vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Total Recall, he popped in there.
Mm-hmm.
Uncredited. The Purge.
Yes.
The first
I
one.
like
Wow.
The Purge is another type of movie like this. It's not written by the guy, but there's
Then,
some.
then he was in that horrible Getaway movie, the reboot of the Getaway. Predestination. I still haven't watched that.
Okay.
That's 2014. He's in. I think it was a Sinister and Sinister 2. I've never heard of Extra Tragedy, but apparently it's a TV movie.
He's in some low-budget horror movies that have. I don't know if it's The Conjuring or some other franchise. Oculus. It's one of those, I believe, he was in. So he'll do different things.
The Phenom, he was in that. 24 Hours to Live. That's another one he does in there too. Was
he in? Oh gosh, Bone. Was he in Bone Tomahawk?
I don't.
Black Phone. I love Black Phone. John.
Yeah,
that's a good catch. That was a recent one he did. He definitely got on the Florida water sauce, if you know what I'm saying. The chicken Ross Berkeley code to pack on about 30.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He was in the Northman.
Yeah,
he popped up in there, and then he did Moon Knight. That's when I remembered who he was because he kind of popped. He was gone for a while. He wasn't really a lot of movies. He always do movies, but they weren't ones that ever pop out. They're very indies, like you said.
Yeah,
the Black Phone.
It's interesting, right?
The Guilty.
Tremendous. Yeah,
the Guilty is the voice. And then he was in Zeros and Ones, Waiting for Godot. Never heard of that. The Good Lord Bird, Cutthroat City, Tesla, The Truth, The Kid, Sandra. I never heard of that. I guess it's a podcast series.
You know this picture you put on here? He looks a little bit like Tom Cruise.
I know. I told you.
You did.
I told you. Like in this movie, certain angles because when he's up, it reminds you of Tom Cruise from The Firm.
Yeah, I think really the last thing that people that know this film know is that the letters for Gattaca, they're one of the 4 different building bases.
Genomes. Yeah, yeah.
And that's what, there used to be a way to categorize it, genetically speaking, all that. And I haven't talked a lot about Max and Days with my German Shepherd, Czechoslovakian Shorthead Red, non-working line show dogs that have their breeding and all that too. And this kind of made me think of them going, well, they supposedly braided excellent saying hips for not having hip dysplasia or whatever like that. And I hand make their food. So it's kind of like, there's just no guarantee, right? I mean, that's the beauty of life is that, you find something you want to do, you have the agency to figure out how to do it, and you grow as a human being into the role. You grow through your problems. That's why a lot of things, and I'll just kind of close with this. It sounds like I'm on a soapbox here, but there's a human element to it. There's a reason why the highest success rate of the majority of interventions out there, with the exception of maybe like testosterone for mental health, would be like Alcoholics Anonymous, which it has like a 20-30% success rate, depending on how you look at it, because you're sitting in there with other humans, and you're not trying to give advice. You're not trying to do whatever. You're trying to let other people know that, hey, whatever you're going through is normal. People are going through situations, and somehow, in some way, your brain takes that and biocentrically speaking says, okay, maybe if I change some things to my life or become aware of my triggers and all that. And that's just a function of you and the environment. It's not society beating you down, making you an alcoholic. I get tired of all the poor people fighting over resources, but that's what happens in real life. That's why you don't really have a lot of crime in rich areas when you think it would be the opposite because they have all the resources. That's just human nature. And when you ignore it, no matter when you make rules, when you do politics, when you do stuff like this, people seem to forget that's the most important thing. Nobody gives a shit about the story. The story's an excuse for this to come out.
When I was looking up as far as the credits and stuff, so Danny DeVito was actually listed as a producer in this.
He might have put up some money or had something to do with getting it built. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, this is through Columbia Pictures back in the day, Jersey Films.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I was going to bring up was crap. When he was born, they quickly take the second year born. I mean, second after you're born, they jab their needle and they take a blood sample, and the one drop it predetermines your life. They said they really feel like it's like he has a high ADHD. And this is like, yes, the 90s, everybody had ADHD. Like that was a new thing. Like that was like
when you change the baseline of what you call certain things, then all of a sudden those numbers changes. So you always have to look at the validity of the test, whether it's inflation, whether it's homosexuality, which they changed, whether it's something like this. I mean, people just ignore that.
But I mean, as far as the attention deficit disorder and stuff, it's like, which we find out that a lot of people were misdiagnosed with that. They're just bored in school. so that was just, I thought it was kind of funny. Is like they said hi, like they included in there. It's like, oh yeah.
There's a reason why they had rows in here and columns that look like a grid. That's straight off manufacturing firms for efficiency. That's not an accident how they chose to display and shoot that, right?
No, yeah. Like I said, everything in this, they show everything is deliberate. But like I said, if you've never seen this movie, you can rent it through most of the social sites, social media, or not social media, but streaming services like Hulu right now. It's available through premium. But if you want, it's on Internet Archive and it's on DVD. You can buy it at any thrift store. I'm pretty sure they probably have this.
It really is a great film. I mean, I know we're talking about all
get physical.
It makes you think, but it's fun to watch. It's not. It's what I call a heavy philosophical film, because if you're not paying attention to all that, I can see where somebody would be disinterested, right?
Well, it's just, see, here's the difference. Like, we got this movie again, but it was called Minority Report. Now it's the action movie with Tom Cruise. This is not the action movie. This is the version where it's a drama thriller. Yeah, suspense. And I kind of, it really could have went. I could see this going into like a Jason Bourne thing. There's a scene where basically they raid the club where he's having dinner and stuff, and then he goes up the back door, punches the cop who's guarding the back door, and they run down the alleyway, and like it's like at the moment you're expecting it. Oh, there's been a chase scene, but that's it. They duck into an alleyway, they make out, and and she's like, "Who's Vincent?" He's like, he just kisses her, and he was like, whatever, she doesn't care. But so but I mean, like, I remember this movie. It's like, and I'm like, oh, remember that there being some kind of like chase scene, but I really like there isn't a chase scene. It's just like it's your mind playing the Mandela effect on you, because you're programmed, because we watched The Bourne Identity, Minority Report, and all these chase movies, Mission Impossible, and then there's like this one leads into it, and then it's done. There's no chase.
I would argue that Bourne Identity obviously reset the action franchise, or the spy, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, Mission Impossible.
Perfect time. Well, the thing with Jason Bourne is the scene where he's in the diner with the Run Lola Run girl, and it's at night. And it's like, I don't know why I can tell you that the guy second, over there can handle himself, and the other guy here, or that I can run Bob. And it's like, when you get the hint of him being tortured and being made into that's real life stuff. That's how all steroids and drugs and all this stuff became to make super soldiers. And then you get like kind of an opposite thing, which the guy's name escapes me, but in the spin-off Jason Bourne movie that flopped, not with Jude Law, but with Hawkeye. You're
talking about the Bourne Legacy.
Yeah, I actually kind of like that.
Yeah.
He was borderline like a 90 IQ person. Nice guy, good guy, okay dude. But the drugs is what made him what he wants. And now he's addicted to him, because when he's in that state mentally, he goes, this is the person I want to be, because it's my maximum potential. And they don't really dive into it. But I think out of the Bourne stuff, that could have been a cool one. But really, they dumbed the Bourne down, even though they've done it very well.
Remember when
the action movies?
Remember when they used to put group movies in like 4-pack DVDs?
Yes.
Like I would put this with Limitless. I would put this with Minority Report, and I'm trying to think.
Equilibrium,
yeah, yep. Right around here. Because like these are just, I love these type of movies.
Real science fiction movies.
Yeah, and don't really get many of those. Yeah, you're right.
Planet of the Apes is one I love. That's usually available.
Yeah, I mean,
that's an older one.
Well, yeah, the new ones were okay. I liked them. Those Caesar and stuff. It took for a while. I did not watch them because I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm fine. But then I sit down and watch them. Like, these are actually good. I'm not going to compare them to the originals, because the originals are written way differently.
Yes.
Yeah. These new ones were more heavily focused on Caesar and how the monkeys took over, and the fall of humans, where the original one, Charlton Heston, it takes place after that. So they don't really, and then you get the one as the Rise of the Planet of the Apes was like, yeah, it's like, I needed to see it. That was kind of dumb.
I don't give a rat's ass about robots or apes. I want humans. Yeah. I mean, but that's why would you care about like Westworld? What, to me, why? I mean, I like it, but not really. It wasn't done well.
Oh, the TV series, I passed on that. I watched the original movie with Yul Brynner, and that's all I needed to see was like, yep, don't trust robots. Future World was actually really good too with Peter Fonda.
Yeah, we may have talked about, I don't know if we reviewed them, but that would have been early on Westworld and all those. Those original ones were good. And that's by the guy that did Jurassic
Uh,
Park and all that stuff. And he was a legitimate, I think, doctor back in the day.
I think we still got to review Logan's Run. That's another one I like.
Yeah, we keep talking about that.
Yeah,
Similar thing too. A lot of 60s science fiction.
I want to do a lot of the science overpopulation movies. We did Sun Green.
Malthusian,
yeah.
Economics. Go look it up. Whatever. Final thoughts on this film, sir?
Final thoughts is if you've never seen this film, and I'll warn you, there's a lot of stuff you're gonna do like, oh my gosh, they actually are doing this stuff today, and it was actually predicted in a movie back in the 90s.
They're not new ideas, guys.
Yeah.
They're all old concepts.
Yeah. And it's basically, this world is kind of like a KGB world. You realize that it's more like the Russian communism, like the Cold War. That's what it reminds me of when I watch this movie.
It is.
You have no freedom. The cops are watching your every single move, see what you do, and if you break out of your assigned role, you are in trouble. And that's why I said I would have loved this, but that would have turned into an action movie if they would have developed more into the punishment for people like him, fraud.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see, what are the prisons like? Are they really bad, or are they clean and stuff? Or do they put you to death? There's no rights obviously in this movie, so you have no freedom of speech, no religion, all that stuff. So imagine they probably just put you to death, or they put you somewhere else to work. So I don't know. I'm curious what the capital punishment is in this kind of society it would be.
That's an interesting idea. That could have been a good spinoff, which there was talk of doing, but I don't think they're doing it now.
Another movie I probably want to review later sometime this year is The Island. Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson and Michael Clark Duncan.
It's Michael Bay, so you won't be able to focus on anything. But
I didn't know Michael Bay. I just watched the movie, and I loved the movie because
it's not bad.
Because it's a concept that I've never seen done in a movie before.
That'll be an interesting topic. Should we review that here soon? What's coming up this week, sir?
This week we're doing the next episode of Reacher, and then possibly later on this week I'm going to drop a poll as far as what will be next Tuesday's move. We're getting back to where the polls, we took a break because we wanted to talk about Gattaca, and because Reacher kind of messed things up, we're doing on Sundays because the way it dropped. Yep. But Tuesdays will be the poll movie, at 8 Eastern. So,
we have something dropping Friday, correct?
Friday would be the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, which has been your Avatar this whole time with Jeremy Brett.
Correct,
Free
on Tubi.
Doing really well right now. 1984 series went to 85, 2 seasons roughly. Which it's and so far it's been doing well on the. So I hope you guys are looking forward to more of that. It seems like it was well taken as far as and people checking it out. Or it could just because it's a very popular search. Regardless, though, you guys are having fun with that, and I look forward to hearing more about that because I might start checking out that series. It is free on Tubi.
I just it's like, I don't want to say comfort food because that diminishes it. It's just high quality television.
Sir,
in my opinion.
Do you know what's also free? Everything on our playlists, all our movie reviews, our TV
I like your thinking, sir.
Yes, I like your thinking too. So check out our playlists.
Play it until your phone blows up or to your television.
Yes, and you need something in the background when you're working on something that that listen to. It's like put on our playlist. We've done The Prisoner, we've done the Mission Impossible first season, and all Forever Night recently. Before that, Twin Peaks,
all of it,
all of Twin Peaks, Dark Shadows.
Yes.
So there's a variety of different stuff you can just listen to and in the background and just let it play.
Yeah. But, great movie, a lot of fun. I'm glad we're not really arguing over anything here. It's just a question of what we like and how it's presented. Fantastic movie. It really is on the short list, one of the best movies of the 90s to me. I really do mean that.
It is, as far as for sci-fi dystopian worlds, because there was other movies came after this, like The Giver and a few other ones. Divergent, which is another class-based society, The Hunger Games. But
those are very libertarian as well. That whole Divergent series or whatever it's called. Yes, they're not bad films.
Yeah. But check this movie and leave a comment down below what you thought of our review. And is there something we missed or something that you really liked in this movie and you thought, just want to share with us?
Watch until your phone blows up.
Well, don't blow your phone up, because then you can't watch more stuff. But anyway, though, thank you for showing up, Desert Rose, and to Johnny and anybody else who hasn't left a comment but is watching. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys on Sunday for a Reacher. But like I said, stay tuned on Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. We have Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, Episode 2. Night, guys. Good night, everybody. And as always, we ask that you...
He's trying to time it. I was trying to surf you up there, sir.
Extreme!
Boom.